All right, we'll consider ourselves called to order for the February meeting of the Calvert City Planning Commission. First item of business will be the approval of our minutes from our December 15th meeting. You have those in front of you.
I've reviewed the minutes. I make a motion they be accepted as presented.
Motion by Gary. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Or second by Brad. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed by like sign? I believe that takes care of that. All right, John, I believe you're up.
All right. Do you want to take care of the one other award right quick?
Yeah, well, why don't we?
All right. Get that for you. You want to do it? You want me to?
Mr. Warning?
Yes.
Please step up here.
He's in trouble.
Yes, sir.
Members of this board go through a lot of training, okay, to get where they are, to maintain their standards and to keep their credentials. Part of that is recognized by the Kentucky League of Cities. They put on most of our training and do that, but those who reach a certain level of education receive different levels of awards. And you, sir, have been awarded level 1 achievement in city governments.
Oh, thank you.
So congratulations.
You're bona fide.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Appreciate it.
We've actually gotten, of course, Kathy and Mark had already received it. We've had some folks from the Board of Adjustments have received it. And then we've got one that's posthumous, so.
Darren was the only one that voted no.
Obviously. Yeah, I need to be vetted. So.
All right, John.
All right, that being said, and after, before we leave, I'll get a photograph, okay? That being said, the biggest item on our ticket this evening is this new legislation that's coming about. Chapter 100-348 is changing to set up compatibility standards for manufactured housing or homes. Now, these are qualified manufactured homes is what is going to affect us for the most part. You all have a copy of this. You should have it on there. It's the front and back. And then the other document that I got there starts off A, qualified manufactured home. That's a sample ordinance from another community in this area. I don't want to get into it just yet. One of the things is what we had originally anticipated in the amendment was supposed to be 9 sections. Well, it's been modified and it now what was adopted was 5. So there are some things that have changed that about time you got here. I mean, good to see you.
Yeah, thank you.
Make sure that your 100-348's got front and back, please.
Okay.
He does. Okay. All right. I think I printed them. So, oh, okay. This goes into effect July 1 of this year. It was a delayed effective date. In our particular case, it's under section 2B, local government, the city itself, planning and zoning, since we do engage in it. We can set compatibility standards. But that's the point. Whatever compatibility standards we set are not just for the qualified manufactured home, they're set for all homes. So that's one thing that we have to be careful of because we're going to now step into the world of aesthetics. Something we haven't done, but we've slowly been edging that way. And so we'll have to deal with that. And I've got some thoughts that might be helpful. If you look at section 2D, a qualified manufactured home. This means a manufactured home that meets all of the following criteria is manufactured on or after July 15th, 2002. Now, originally it was supposed to be in the last 5 years.
That's what I thought.
That did not go. This is what is on their site. What you have before you is I printed right off of the LRC site.
The 24-year-old.
Yeah.
Well, it's got to meet the standards. So chances are it won't. Okay, again, before you jump on and run with it, understand that we have standards that have to be set, and so those standards have to be met, okay? It is affixed to a permanent foundation and is connected to the appropriate facilities and is installed in compliance with KRS 227-570. That is that is the structure or the standard for a manufactured home setting, okay? Manufactured homes are not built on the same, while they're built more like a house today than ever before. The frame itself is a steel beam, or actually 3 steel beams with joists going out in an upward section, and that is how that's constructed. Instead of having the piers like we have and the joists like we have, it's a little bit different in that particular. That being said, it also has to measure at least 20 feet in width at its smallest width measurement. So in other words, it has to be 20 feet or larger. In most cases, I want to say they're long, somewhere around 24 feet, but that's a standard and required. It has 2 stories. I've never seen a 2-story manufactured home. I've seen modular homes, but we already allow modular homes. Okay. It must be oriented on the lot or parcel so that the main entrance door faces the street. So you can't put in a 40-footer on a 25-foot lot and have the door come out the side. It's got to face the front or the street. Let's see what else here. Has a minimum total living area of 900 square feet and is not located in a manufactured home land lease community, which we do not have. We don't have any manufactured home, what I call the mobile home parks. That's just the manufactured home parks. We do not have any of those truly in the city, or at least not as yet anyway. Your permanent going into E, you get into your permanent foundation. Capable of transferring without failure into soil or bedrock, the maximum depth, maximum design load imposed by or upon the structure, constructed of concrete and placed at a depth below grade adequate to prevent frost damage. Now, 3, any local government may adopt and enforce as part of the zoning regulations compatibility standards governing the placement of qualified homes in a residential zone with the local government's jurisdiction. And these compatibility standards shall be adopted and enforced in the same manner as other regulations, zoning regulations, and shall be in addition to any zoning regulations that are generally applicable to a single family residence. Okay. So they can't be more strict than. The compatibility standards shall be designed to ensure that when a qualified manufactured home is placed in a residential zone, it is compatible in terms of assessed value with existing housing located within 1/8 mile or less radius from the proposed location of the qualified manufactured home. The compatibility standards adopted by a local government shall relate to architectural features that have significant impact on the overall assessed value of the structure, including, for example, but not limited to, features such as roof pitch, square footage of living space, type and quality of exterior finishes, foundation skirting, existence and type of attached structures. Now, yeah.
So when you talk about, when it says the compatible in terms of assessed value, so I'm assuming that you're looking at a house next or within that 1/8 mile, right? Radius. It has to be assessed similarly to what's in that 8th area. Is that what that means?
Yeah. So a lot of what these standards, compatibility standards are doing, number one, first off, the running gear's got to go.
Yeah.
All right. That's part of it. A qualified manufactured home does not have running gear. All the axles, the running gear, the tongue, all that's gone. Okay. It's set per their standards. We can't set those standards. Those standards for their foundation, for that structural foundation, is already pre-established in KRS 227. However, we can do skirting. Skirting of compatible sources is block. It does not have to be a load-bearing skirt, but it can be a crawl space set up and cover around the exterior perimeter of the home. because that's what most homes have unless you're a slab. You know, it's either brick or block. I don't think you'll see very many concrete pours. And if you did, it would be expensive. But a block, a cedar cinder block, just like any standard house would have, okay? You can say that has, you know, if it's not a house on slab, it must have a cinder or a block foundation or skirting. That way you're not establishing anything that is more so for one than the other. Again, when it comes to that skirting, it does not have to be load bearing.
So, but when it says like, so if you're looking at an 8 radius, all the existing houses within an 8-mile radius, say all of them are averaged like $250,000 for their assessed value within that radius. That then would not be compatible. That
Oh.
qualified manufactured home.
Well, I mean, it depends. I mean,
That
the
would, that makes
assessed
sense.
value, yeah, I know what you're saying. Assessed value comes at the purchase price as
Right.
well.
Okay.
Okay, so assessed value on a home that's been there for a while may be $200,000. It's not hard to spend $200,000 on a manufactured home or a qualified manufactured home.
Yeah, but I don't know.
Okay.
I want to get down to the weeds, but what somebody could say, well,
Here's-
here's two
but wait a
fifty.
minute,
Sell it to me for 250. That's what the sticker price is. He's not paying 250. He's paying 100. You know what I'm saying? Like you can get around that. When assessed value is by
Well,
PBA, they're not going to assess it.
they'll assess it the first time on what you paid for it.
Okay.
I mean, anytime that you buy a piece of property,
Yeah.
whatever that purchase price is, high or low, that's your assessed value.
Yeah.
Okay. But I'm not trying to sell one way or the other. We have no choice. We have to do that. But by the time you put on the roof pitch, the block foundation, I can take you to a house right now that if you did not know I was taking you to a qualified manufactured home,
Yeah.
you would not know it.
Sure.
And it's down here on First Street. You know the one anyone know the one I'm talking about?
You took the buy.
Huh? Brillo's mom. She's got one. And if you didn't know that was a qualified or a manufactured home, you would
Sure.
know it. So it's set up pretty much in that same way. It has to meet certain standards. A lot of people are saying, okay, to your pitch, while I say, I don't know if you want to put a full money on everybody and say, okay, when you build a house here in an open lot, you have to go to this house and that house, look at the pitch of that roof, and then the average is what you've got to put on your house. That's what they're doing though. That's what a lot of them are doing. And it could be what you want to do. I don't know. But my minimum would be you have to have a minimum of a 412 or better. And a 412 doesn't matter if it's a pitch or a slant roof, it's still 412. So that you're putting on one, it's more than a standard manufactured home of 312. You know, you want this to look like a house, not a manufactured home. It's been pulled in there, you know, and that's not the point of this is to get housing that's easily accessible
Mhm.
or much easier to access and get put in than having to have a stick-built home. And the cost is going to be less.
I understand the intent behind it.
Yeah.
But it's just
Now, what it does not
Regulating.
enforce, they can't, this only affects us and our zoning. It does not affect the developer, the landowner. If I say, when I sell this, I said, I put a restriction on my deed, no manufactured homes. That's fine. I can do that as an individual. I can't do that as a city. If the developer says there will be no manufactured homes on this, it has to be a certain type of home with certain type, whatever that restriction is, those restrictions by individuals, developers, or whatever, that is not affected by this. Okay, it only affects us in zoning.
So John, it seems to me like one of the things that we're going to look at is square footage, put some minimum square footages on the different zones that we have, especially for zone 1 and 2 anyway. But in doing that, what may be the right square footage or minimum square footage that we want to use today? I could see there being a possibility there could be existing homes that are less than that, but since this is a new ordinance, those existings are grandfathered in. Is that correct? So we're not we're not gonna create a problem for an existing homeowner if we put a
No.
minimum square footage on.
That's
it, because
correct.
They're already there.
But if they have to build back or that something happens,
Yes.
then
They
whatever's
have to
built
come
back
back.
has to meet
It
the
has to meet the new
standard. Yeah,
standard.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, 900 square feet is the minimum square foot for a qualified manufactured home. Now, and you can find them with those pitches and stuff like that in that setup, but Troy and I went to a seminar that was put on by the manufactured home, the manufacturers of manufactured home. They put on a seminar and went and looked at a lot of their offerings and was quite impressed with a lot of it, both inside and out. I mean, you actually can go on and add to, just like a house. You can go up there and say, I want to add another room, go out the back and do the pitch on it. I mean, it'll tie in just like it would to a regular house because it's built and framed out exactly like the standards we have, or as close to them as possible. I mean, it's a different standard, but they're getting closer to the standard building code. Even though it was a HUD style building code to begin with, they're actually over the last, since 76, I mean, they've constantly been changing that code to make it much more like a stick-built house. And so they're beginning to get more in that realm. I mean, you have a lot of options that you can do there. I mean, it's not something that we're not legislated to go in there and say, all right, you want to put a double wide in there, go right ahead. That's not what it's saying. It has to be a qualified manufactured home. Just like our Class A, it has to be. The difference is now we cannot say it's a conditional use. It'll be a matter of right. Now they'll have compatibility standards and stuff that they'll have to come back and show us. It means they're gonna have to show us an elevation and stuff like that. But now we're gonna be looking at elevations of houses too, because we're setting a compatibility standard for not just manufactured homes, but for all homes. So I want to make sure that, and I've thrown a lot out there real quick, and I'm sorry for that, but it's something we've got to really think about. Now, if you want to take a look at the sample ordinance, that this was done and was pretty well drafted up, I think, by one of the leaders in planning and zoning in Fulton. Another city in this area has adopted this, but it was done by a well-known House Bill 55 trainer that you all may be familiar with, without stating names, okay? So,
John, didn't you also mention to me that there's some type of planners group that's been doing some meetings? And
we
so
have
forth?
been,
Okay.
we actually
That's a big
put together, because of this, a group from the purchase. Murray, Mayfield, Fulton, Hickman, Paducah, Calvert, Benton, we're all anyone that has zoning in the purchase is part of it. And we talk about issues and stuff of that nature, and we've been going over this. One of the things, but like I said, one of the things that kind of shocked me, and I don't know if a lot of us know that they came back and did some stuff differently than what we expected them to do before it was all said and done. What is it we were told in that? Most dangerous time to the taxpayer is when government's in session.
So to say, I mean, do politicians change something?
On the back side of that, you got your architectural guidelines or compatibility guidelines. These actually require a house to have a projection from the wall of a minimum of 6 inches, where some, manufactured homes don't have anything. The roof does not extend beyond the sidewalls. But here it has to have a minimum of 6 inches in this one. And this shall have a pitch at least equal to the average of the 2 residential buildings in the same block face. There's residential buildings on either side of the lot, or two nearest the residence if the adjacent structures are not residential. So if you got one with a 512 and one with an 812, you're gonna have to come up with something like 7 or something, 6, 7. Would have to be the pitch on the house that goes in there, if it's the average. You see what I mean by that, instead of setting a minimum? You know, but at the same time, you don't want to necessarily, you're not. Go back here for the R1, R3 is probably our largest zone as far as residential, okay? That's Old Calvert, that's the Heights, not that, well, not even the Heights, but part of the Heights, but
Yeah.
all that area over here at Cherry and Chestnut and all that, all those areas there. And you're not getting many houses that have a very steep pitch like you would in some of the bigger areas or some of the R1s, even the R2s, a lot of the R2s are not real steep roofs. Now, you start getting into areas that are R1. And that's where you hit all the subdivisions. If you remember, all of our subdivisions or most of our subdivisions are R1, Huntington Creek, Shadow Ridge, Royal Park. These are zone R1s, okay? So a lot of those are already pre-governed. But you know, I dare say my roof is probably, I don't even know if it's a 512 in my house. That ranch style of mine, it may be a 412. So. And they actually get into windows, porches, foundation size. I mean, you can regulate size or height on it, but one of the things I'd be careful about that is if you get into a floodplain, that thing's gonna be raised. The base floor has got to be 2 foot above base flood elevation here, so.
Do we have any subdivisions with regulations already in the city? Like Huntington Creek, Addison?
I'm sure they do. They've got aesthetic regulations or restrictions. I don't know what they are because the city does not enforce them.
So how does that work with one of those? Like
If you're in a subdivision that has those regulations or restrictions put into it, covenants, they're still effective. Okay,
but
but the
they-
city does not enforce them. The people that live there do.
Or they don't.
They don't have to.
they don't have to.
No, they don't. No, you're right.
Okay.
The
They
public,
could say no.
It's
only the government.
Okay.
The government and zoning has to comply with this.
Gotcha.
You got anything? Anything you want to add?
Well, I was just looking at the differences here between what passed.
I was kind of taken aback.
Yeah, and I'm pretty, why they didn't put it at the end when it was effective, but it is on the one that we had previously. It says July 1st, 2026, and this one says 2003.
They both have the same thing. I read the same on both of them. The only thing different is the language and the fact that the one that I pulled off of LRC's website today is the one with 5 sections, not 9.
That's the one that says effective July
2003.
2003.
That was the last one because this one hasn't gone into effect until July 1st of 26, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
I know.
But the prior said July.
But both of those, this one right here reads the same way. At the end of it, it says the same thing as it did on the other one.
On this one.
So what this is saying is not right? Because this is effective.
This is
until
effective July.
1st. Do I have the old one? What am I looking at?
I think that's the.
No,
Well-
you brought the old one. I brought-
Well, let me put it like this.
He's-
The one that John was reading from is the one I'm looking at that says effective until July 1.
Then we don't have to comply by it. Then it's over.
None of this goes into effect. And so we've got what we're gonna do.
Oh, no, it says effective until July 1.
Where? Am I reading it?
Yeah.
Am I at here?
Previous. We just.
Oh,
And on the begin, and the.
That's the one with the.
Here's the pointing out, it says effective July 1, 2003.
So we just hold off until after July. And then.
I didn't get it.
disregard then.
So you pulled this right off of the.
That's LRC Scott. And apparently I just didn't read it thoroughly. I'm sorry about that. Well, apparently they are still going forward with all this,
They're still.
but we still have the same authority to do what we're still talking about. Roof pitch, all that's, nothing of that's changed. They've just gone back and put average. stuff saying that you cannot.
Is the date still the same? That July?
July first.
Oh, yeah, July
15th,
first is when it goes into effect.
20,000.
I misread that. This is, okay, this is effective until then.
No, the date, the 2000 manufactured on or.
I was trying to get this
Is that
one,
still
the
that?
new effective one.
Or is it the 5 years? It's the 5 years.
Yes.
Okay, so it's not this one.
That's
Okay.
the,
So this.
The one that I gave you,
Okay,
the one you just got tonight,
that makes a big difference.
throw it away.
20.
I've got it written all over it. I'll have to get some more. Have you got
I've had
a
a
plain
couple
copy?
conversations with the local, like Champion House out of Benton.
I'll send you one.
One of their guys call. I'll
Golly.
the one out of Paducah.
Okay.
What we can
Huh?
regulate, what we can choose as far as like roof pitch, for example.
You gonna look and
That
say, yeah.
12 puts, he's complaining to me and I'm like, sir, this is, I don't know what's coming in July first, but basically what's happened is there's two lots that I've had a bunch of calls about. Realtors and they're trying to sell, manufactured homes that go in. So I sit with them and we go over everything. And the last realtor I was on the phone with, I had all the stuff that would be needed to ask in our current ways.
Mhm.
And basically her thought to me was, by the time we get here, it's so overpriced, that'd be better off buying a home.
Hmm.
And that came from the dealerships as well. And I said, well, that's, everything's changing in July first.
Yeah.
But, of course, we'll have to change and update our ordinance. So regardless, even if we went with in my opinion, even if we went with the average of the two, that would be more difficult.
Uh-huh.
John and I
Yeah, that-
talked about this,
That's
but
just weird.
even a 412 is gonna be, it's gonna change what's coming in.
You got you.
Because the standard is 3.
Ah,
Yeah.
And that really changes a lot. And that was their complaint to me. And I said, well,
Be glad it's not a 512 or 612 that's required.
but there's a lot going on there.
But now, again, I understand what their thought was. They're trying to make what goes in there be compatible with what's next to it instead of something completely different. And understand that, and that's the reason for the pitch on the roof. However, and apparently we have that right. I mean, that's one of that's the what little leeway we have has to do with compatibility standards. All the rest of this is basically saying this, you're gonna allow them in there if they meet your compatibility standards. And you have certain compatibility standards that you can use, and these are some of them. So,
okay. All right.
Then it's not gonna be successful at what they intended to do, because it's
not.
gonna drive.
It's gonna,
It's
not as
Compatibility
easily
standards
as
gonna
they would
drive-
like it
drive
to be.
price up,
Yeah.
so they might as well build it.
and for example, with ours, like even at the 412, so when I'm speaking to him, I'm telling, this is what's coming. And his rebuttal was, well, when you do that, some of ours, we can't even get in 412, and the ones we can, it adds, exponentially to the product. Okay, I understand that. Then on top of that, the skirting, as far as, 227 covers how the foundation works as far as that goes. And that's a state thing where they come in and do it. What we can do with the block as far as the skirting and stuff, that adds as well.
Mhm.
So by the time they're buying this home that actually is a qualified manufactured home and trying to put it
Doesn't make sense.
somewhere, it's, yeah, you gotta be on your P's and Q's.
Yeah.
And most of the lots, most of the calls that I've personally had recently have all been like our R3, things like that.
Mhm.
So, and none of them nobody's came in and tried to do anything yet, just a bunch.
And right now, even with R3, we allow by conditional use a Class A manufactured home. Our Class A manufactured home is just this, it has to have the 412. Everything else we've talked about
Mhm.
is something we already require. The only difference in this is so far, it hasn't stated that you have to have a specific pitch. That's for you guys to determine. Where we've already determined that if it's got a 412 or better, we can look at it as part of that. And a lot of these that are the bigger homes that are gonna fit this bill are gonna be somewhere in the 1,200 square foot range.
Hmm.
You talk about a 900 square foot, or you're talking about either very short, more squarish than
30 by
rectangle.
30.
Yeah.
Or-
Or you're
20 by the
looking,
minimum, 20 by 45.
you're looking at
That's
something
that-
that's too narrow to be considered,
Yeah.
The narrow ones, they do make manufactured homes for small lots that have openings at the front. In other words, if you've got a shotgun lot and you've got a narrow, you just got a single wide, but you've got it where they've got the openings front and back, not on those, what we would call the sides and that. So they do have that ability. They can produce almost anything that you think that you want, because the industry has been thinking about it for a long time. They actually have, yes, one of the things is one of our locals may not produce those because that's what not they're geared to. But no, I forgot one.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So, but I think the thing to look at is the roof pitch, making sure that we have the foundation, or the skirting. I have to say it's not a foundation, it is skirting. The foundation is what the state or the HUD or the KRS 227 mandates. We do skirting. But it's not going on a slab, we do know that, so it's gonna have a crawl space. So it's gonna have, a block, we do a block skirt with a crawl space so they can get under it. So it looks like every other house on the block.
Yeah.
Then you could do porches. I think it also, one of them, it said in here something about some of them, I think it was one of the other communities, I don't know if it's in this one. One of the other communities said if the houses on either side of you, residents on each side have a porch,
Yeah.
a covered porch, then you're gonna have one too. For compatibility standards. And the square footage would be, again, an average of that. So.
We're trying to we want to make it to be available to people. But we also are trying to protect the property owners that
That's
and
correct.
the value there.
And
So,
I think they did that. This does not allow a quote unquote, just a manufactured home. To go in any place that is a single family dwelling can go. It only allows qualified manufactured homes with compatibility standards to go in those as a matter of right. But again, the matter of right also requires a review of making sure the aesthetics of it are going to be something that's compatible with the neighborhood. But again, you have to establish some standards on that.
Sure. Okay.
That review, John, is
It-
that just you doing the review, or does that come to the Board of Adjustments for that?
Well, I would say that it would have to go through us. Because the issue is if you go through the Board of Adjustments, you're gonna sit and rule on every house that gets built.
Right.
And I don't think we want to go that way.
Okay.
I think that, you've got, your biggest thing is making sure that, your roof is compatible, your foundation, the size, whatever. Tiny homes are now, they're the ones who are going to suffer the most from this, the stick-built tiny homes. Because now you may not be able to put a stick-built tiny home in where you once could. Because right now there's no restrictions. When we do this, those restrictions are going to stand out. And so if you got 1,200 square feet in an R2 and 900 in an R3, and somebody wants to put a 750 square foot tiny home in there, ain't going to happen. But again, I think that's something that you have to take into consideration. I mean, it may be that if you want a tiny home, you just have to set up something on a conservation section, say we want to build a tiny home community. And we want approval of the planning commission, because in the conservation, you can come back and ask for that. Or maybe even over an HOC3, I don't know. I don't know what you're looking at that point, but there are areas that can be developed. So you have any thoughts about roof pitch or roofs? And I know this, I'm not necessarily asking for a deal, but we're gonna have to eventually, we're gonna have to either do a special call to come back and talk about this, or do a special call to come back and do a public hearing. Because we're talking about a text amendment. And because of that, we'll have to have a public hearing. And then send our recommendations to the council.
I see no reason to do this average thing. That just seems crazy. And just because your neighbor, just because the people on both sides of this lot did something weird, like really steep roofs. Does it?
Well, average house
And,
pitch,
and all of our houses are not uniform, and we don't want all of our houses to be uniform.
no. But I'm just gonna say the average house pitch is somewhere around 6 to 8. That's the average house pitch. And that's an average. That's not, there's gonna be some that are less and some that are more, but that's the average.
And there's.
It's easy to walk.
Well, the new house that's being built across the street from me,
Mhm.
just forgot, that's a 512.
Okay.
Okay,
And that's an,
if it tells you what a 512, that is a 512. You can look at that and see for sure. So.
I'm like you there. It don't seem like. I can see us setting a minimum pitch, but. I don't think we want to get into the comparison to your neighbors, and I noticed even this with the porches. I don't have to start counting houses to see if it has 50% of the houses around you have porches, you gotta put a porch on, but I mean.
Well, now, again, whatever we do, if we say that you have to have a 412 or better, then that stands for the house it goes into.
Sure, yeah,
Yeah.
but there again, that would be pretty common. I think you could set a minimum pitch, that would be a common minimum pitch on a stick-built house.
Yeah. And you could even go, more than 412. I just said that because that's what we had previously.
Right.
I mean, if you think we need to step it up a little bit, that's fine too.
Can't sleep. Is it like a 2-story colonial, something flat, something? Does it have a flatter
No, it's got a hip,
roof on the?
got a hip.
Okay, I like.
Mine.
It's either got a gable or hip, depending on the structure on it, yeah. But a slant roof, the only flat roofs that I'm aware of are apartment buildings and stuff like that. Even else, if you got just a single roof, it's a slant. I mean, you put the same standard on it that you do on a pitch roof.
And I was thinking a while ago when you said that, that I guess you could say that you would not allow a slant roof,
I guess you could, yeah.
but also thinking back, there's a house in Benton on 12th.
Yep.
That it's a modern looking house.
Yeah.
That has that slant, and it's sharp.
Yeah.
So
There's
I
one
don't think
Camelot.
you'd want to do that, so.
Camelot has one
Yeah.
in the
And
back.
of course, you've got the Dutch hips, you got all the different type of
Yeah.
hip roofs
Yeah.
and stuff like that, so.
But I think the slope is still something that would give you that. Something to make it look more stick built than a typical manufactured home.
But I know that standard you're talking about, that's being adopted by a lot of communities. That seems to be, they've taken that recommendation, they've moved with it, so. I had my reservations about it, but at the same time, that they just, they went with that recommendation. I think they've actually, I know that 2 communities have adopted this. In the purchase.
I think I asked this question maybe the last time, so I'm repeating myself because I'm old enough, forgot what the answer was.
Well, I forgot too, so go ahead.
Is there a database in the city that shows with the houses in the different zones that are in the city, what the square footage of those houses would be? Or is that a PVA thing?
That'd be PBA. We really don't, because that's
And the
not something we've
PVA
ever,
would not be connected back to our zoning either.
the only time that we're concerned about the square footage of the house is if we're doing accessory structures.
Now,
Yeah, and even before, I mean,
you see what I'm getting at though?
we never
What I-
have had that as a
Right.
standard.
But where I'm getting at is, it'd be useful to me if we start thinking about minimum square footage for the different zones.
Yeah.
Let's get see what the typical square footage is in the zone, in the housing that's in those zones now, and make sure we're at least somewhat compatible with that, because again, I could see manufactured home person coming in, if we set it much higher than what the existing other homes are, we're setting ourselves up for trouble.
Yeah,
You have that option here. Where is that one? Okay,
that's 5.
5, section 5, you'll take a look at it right quick. A manufactured home does not meet the, a manufactured home that does not meet the minimum width of 20 feet or minimum total square living area of 900 square feet needed to be considered a qualified manufactured home under 2D in this section may be treated as a qualified manufactured home for purposes of subsection 3 and 4 if the setback requirements of the lot lot dimensions would not reasonably accommodate a home meeting those minimum dimensions. Okay, in other words, you get a lot that's smaller, like, and so it won't fit normally. The home is the home is the maximum width and square footage that could reasonably fit on a lot while complying with all applicable setbacks requirements. In other words, it would fit, but just will fit, even though it's not the right size. So that you don't have to go back and do a variance to put something larger on it. You could let that be a qualified manufacturer.
But we already have lot sizes defined by the different zones.
Correct. And we have several of them that we've had to do variances on in the past because they were smaller than
Yeah.
what we required.
Right.
I mean, you have the option that you can allow that if it's a certain guidelines. But that might also be where you ask for a conditional use on those. Or variance, that might be the more proper term, was a variance. I looked at, I can't remember the community, there was 1 or 2 communities I looked at. Then they have standards in their R1 zone. Their minimum for an R1 is 1,100 or 1,200 square feet. Depending on the community you talk to. That's the ones that do have that standard. That's what their requirement is. Minimum square footage for a house or dwelling, single family dwelling in an R1 zone. In the R2 zone, they were all pretty much the same, 1,000 square feet. In R3 and 4, those that did have it, it ranged anywhere from 600 to 800 square feet. So those were the standards that I found in other communities. And there was one, I think this may have been, their R1 and 2 had to have a minimum of a 512 pitch on a single story. If it was a 2-story, they didn't require that, but if it's a single story in R1 and 2, it had to have a 512 pitch. That was a requirement. And that's some of the stuff that came out of those meetings. We sat down and really hashed out some things. Next week, we've got a presentation by the Warren County Planning and Zoning Administrator for Warren County Joint Planning Commission on this. So I'll take all the notes I can on that one, might even record it. So that you guys can hear what they're doing. They're doing it a lot different. They're offering, you have a menu and you have to pick 3 out of the 6 on the menu to qualify. So you have like 6 different options that you can choose to put on this house to make, or this manufactured home, qualified manufactured home, to make it fit. And in doing so, you have to pick a minimum of 3 of the 6. That's interesting. But they have a menu option. So I'm gonna try to see what they're thinking of there. And the young man, it's the young man, I say young man, he's not young anymore, but he's younger than me, or I. anyway, but me, he actually was at Paducah and he left Paducah planning and zoning and went to Warren County. Ben. He did a real good job over there. So. So kind of look at that and see what you think, and you all want to set up a special call to go back over it in more detail after I've had this other meeting. Be glad to do that. And that way we can get just,
Okay, John, work us backwards.
Okay.
If this effective in July, that means work us backwards for where we have to be, have something before the council. They'd have to have it in,
council has to have 2 readings. Okay. Now, what we're also talking about in June and July or June and May, we've got workshops, budget workshops and stuff like that, where we're gonna have ordinances that we have to put in there as well. My suggestion is that we send to them by the May meeting our recommendation. Okay. That means that in May, if they accept that, then they can go ahead and do the first reading. And in June, do the second reading. Then it goes effect July 1st, 26. So we need to either at our March meeting or early April have our public hearing, or at least in March, we need to have a special call where we can go over this and make sure. We may need 1, maybe 2 to determine how we want to proceed with this on our compatibility standards. But somewhere in there, we've got to get in the public hearing. That's going to take 2 weeks' notice. So we need to do that. We can still set that up for the public hearing at our regular meeting. We've got time to do that, but we need to do a special call to work out some stuff so that legal has the ability to wind up putting something together for our proposal. What we're thinking about doing for the public to come back and look at. And then once that's done, then we have, we still have April. If we need to back things up or if we need to move forward some more, that still gives us, so we need to, but March and April are the months in which we need to finish this thing.
Good.
anything else? No hearts
There's
and
supposed to be
minds
some training. You have the dates on that by chance?
The KLC.
Yeah,
That
here,
was in,
code enforcement.
I believe it's May 12th. It's mid-May, but I think it's May 12th.
We've got some training here at the Civic Center, May the 12th. So anyone that's available for that one, let me know and we'll get you registered. I don't know right now who all is required. Did you all go to training last year? Do we go? Don't remember, no? So you probably need to, this is only a 6-hour course,
Yes.
but we can pull a 2-hour course easily.
Is
Hmm?
it May 12th? Okay.
We can do that, even working on this ordinance, we can use that we're going through the process as well. If you all decide to call that training. But you actually have extra time now, so according to this, you can do those 6 hours and then do something the next year. Because you don't have to have the 8 hours every 2 years. They've stepped that out and I can't remember exactly what it is. But it's not as stringent as it once was. No, well, it's not real stringent still. We still have to do the 8 hours every year. Staff does, so.
Joe, you were the only one that missed the training. We had it in Calvert last year.
We did have that training last year, didn't we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
we did it
Yeah, because they
last
said that was the biggest training class they'd had.
Yeah, it was good.
year.
So I kept thinking we had, but
I had to have and oversee are done, so.
All right, there, motion we adjourn.
Second.
Moved in second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned at 6:21.
Two gun batters.